Hello, everybody. Welcome to another webinar. I think all my screen sharing is working correctly. There's Dr. Mike, perfect. And there's Jared, awesome. Very good, cool. I'm gonna switch my view here just so that, actually I'm just gonna stop sharing just because I'm just playing around with some stuff and don't really necessarily need that right now. So, welcome everybody to IT and Tech for Esports. My name is Alex Herby, and I'm part of the education team for Generation Esports. And with me are two fantastic gentlemen who know everything there is to know about esports tech, and that's Dr. Michael Russell and Jared Troxclair. Thank you so much, guys, for being on here. Your knowledge will be super needed because mine might be lacking a little bit in terms of some of the stuff. So thanks so much for being there, Mike. Let's go with some introductions here. What tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with us.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Oh, you might be muted. I can't hear you.
I'm muted.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
My speakers were tearing down too low.
Oh, okay. Hey, thanks for hopping on, everybody. This will be exciting. Yeah, a little bit of my background. I started off as an esports coach, as an educator. I started a after-school program at our school, and then started alongside Christy Custer, our curriculum that we participate in now. So. But I have experience in building my own lab, wrote grants to get my lab, and all the technology and fun that goes alongside of that. So I've had some experience in helping people set up their own labs and building my own, and have hopefully a lot of insights that will help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls that I had 7, 8 years ago when I started this. So yeah, I'm super excited to help everyone and dive in here. I'm excited to have Jared on here as well. So, Jared, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I'm Jared. I'm an account manager here with Generation Esports, helping out the West region. Um, my background before I started working here at Generation Esports was I was a part of my university's esports program. I was the assistant director of operations. So, on the contrary to Dr. Mike, writing grants and stuff for all those labs, I have the experience building the lab by hand. So I have some of that technological background setting up, just what a lab should look like, the ins and outs, managing technology, making improvements and whatnot. That's sort of my wheelhouse. And yeah, always happy to be here and help get any program started.
Absolutely awesome. So, wherever you are in your process of starting esports, you're in the middle of it, you're a seasoned veteran. We thank you for being on here today. We're going to go through kind of the setup procedure, and then we can talk through some more advanced, focused items for those of you that might be have been into this and you're looking for maybe the next step of what you want. So, again, if you're just starting out or you're planning or you're right in the middle of it, we thank you for being here. And hopefully this is going to give some good information to get your program off the ground, and for you to get something really awesome in your building for your kids. So we're going to start off today with probably the most important part, and that is your IT or tech department. I see, I know Mike's shaking his head at this because he knows that this is it. And I myself also piloted and started our esports program. So it sounds like all three of us have had that kind of shared experience on here. So feel free to ask questions about our startup experience because I know we will be sharing a lot of it. But Mike, do you want to talk about at least bullet number one, and then we can talk through some other stuff on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So before I even started to figure out which games and what kind of technology and everything I wanted to use, I definitely got in touch with my two departments, actually, our IT department, I always say if you're going to buy anybody a Christmas gift in your district, that would be the department to buy one for, because they're the one, they will make or break your whole experience. So if they're supportive, they can make it really go smooth, and if they're not into it, it can really make life rough. So the other one being, I would check with your facilities department to make sure you have enough electricity and things running into the area that you've identified to host your lab. I actually went through this step, and my department assured me that we had enough electricity, and we got to the point where we plugged everything in, and we didn't. So you want to make sure that you have enough outlets and enough electricity running in there to keep everything going. So, but your IT department's going to be integral, because you're going to need to know how much Wi-Fi or internet. I wouldn't recommend Wi-Fi, actually. You'll want to be hardwired mostly, but how much internet you have running into that room, how many computers you're going to need, how you're going to set up your firewalls, who's going to have access to those machines, how are you going to open up everything. So you'll want to get down the road with your IT department before you just go, hey, I got all this stuff and got my grant approved and I have all the kids ready to play. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, actually, you can't do that. So definitely bring them in early, and they will make your life much better. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I can attest to that as well. Talking to your IT department, this is, yes, it is being recorded, so it'll be up on our YouTube later today. Good question. Or later this week, sorry, not later today. Later this week. Thank you for that question. And talking to your IT department, you want to be on good terms with them, because this, in most cases, is going to be something that is outside of their comfort zone, for sure. And sometimes outside of their wheelhouse a little bit. They're very used to setting up things for education-based initiatives, but when it comes to setting up something for fun, they are a little bit less, elastic on something like that, a little bit more rigid. And so start the process early. Like, if you're thinking about starting this in the spring, you should be starting now, like right now, talking to your board, talking to your administrators, talking to your IT department about your thoughts, plans, endeavors, right? So start the process early and communicate, because I don't know about your IT department, but my IT department always wanted to be kept on the loop on anything. And that just aids to your, relationship with your IT department, right? Is that keeping them in the loop on, hey, these are the games we're thinking about doing, or these are the computers that we're thinking. You may know everything already. Like, you know exactly what computers you want. You may know exactly what games you want, but keeping them in the loop and having their feedback on there can really aid in their kind of their skin in the game for the process and their kind of involvement. Mike mentioned whitelisting and firewall stuff. Jared might talk about this a little bit later when we talk about actually competing. But there are a lot of things, a lot of ports, a lot of servers, a lot of numbers that they put into the computer on the administration side of a district that allow you to game during the day. And it's not as simple as downloading the game and playing it, because 9.9 times out of 10, it will be blocked and not allowable, right? So even if you manage to get the game downloaded, playing it will not work. Updating it most likely will not work. Connecting to the launcher will not work, because all of these things are separate ports or things that need to be accessed through your school's firewall or through your filters. And so that's a big consideration. And to know that, each game has update servers. They have game servers and play servers, and then they have launchers. Those are 3 separate things. It's not just, downloading the game, which seems like one package, and playing it, right? So I remember it took us a month maybe or more for our IT department to figure out all of the ports needed to be open for Apex Legends. And so it was just every day trying different things. Me getting on the IT director's bad side only because I would keep asking about it, knowing that he had a lot to do. But, Mike, I think you've had some similar issues with blockages at the district level with games,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very common occurrence, and sometimes they'll even change the ports on you so you can't update the game. So that's always a fun experience too. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll probably talk about this, but your updates often happen during the school day, because that's when the games are least often played. So they tend to update at like 11 or 1 o'clock, and so that can also cause some havoc if you're trying to use it during the school day. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of those things is that, how do we get around this, right? And you can maybe score some IT department points here by mentioning some solutions that we have for allowing this to work, right? So One thing is kind of geo fencing, geolocation, where your IT department can kind of cordon off your room or wherever this area is going to be at the building and allow these things to happen. That's one way you could do it. Another way is through Active Directory listing. And so you could have your IT department go in and make a special group for your students through their Active Directory, allowing them to do these certain things. And then another way is kind of a combination mode where it's an Active Directory, but kind of a global time lock system, and where that's what we had. And so the updates and stuff like that can run on the admin side of the computer on the PCs when they need to. Updates can happen. However, students are not able to get on to access the games or anything until that time lock starts, until your classroom starts, or it's after school, or whatever your building's going to do. And so those are the kind of the ways that we kind of engage with the IT department in terms of getting esports into the building. And again, we can't stress enough to communicate with them, make friends, and to continually update them on things that you might need for esports. Any questions about talking to the IT department, tips? No? Okay, good. Hopefully everyone's comfortable talking to their IT department. If you're not, do it. Be out of your comfort zone. I actually almost got fired from my IT department, like my first teaching job, because I reran some cable through the drop ceiling. So, and we had a great relationship after that. So, anybody can come back from the edge for sure. All right. So let's talk about, this is what everybody thinks of a lot of times, other than the games, is hardware when it comes to esports. So everybody wants, the fastest, the biggest, the most colorful rigs that you can get, right? Everybody wants those. And so sometimes that's not always in the budget, or that's not always in your spec, because not only do they cost a lot of money, but they also take a lot of power. And so like Mike said, if your room's not equipped for the amount of power you need, that's definitely something to talk to your building maintenance about. If you're pulling too much power in there, because you definitely cannot run 10, 12, maybe even not even 5 gaming PCs off of a power strip running into one outlet. You're asking for trouble. So one of the things about hardware is to stay in your comfort zone. Okay. Now you may want a huge lab with 25 computers, enough for all your kids. But that may not be in your comfort zone. You may not be comfortable working with, or troubleshooting, or working alongside 25 high-end computers or gaming computers. And so if you're just kind of getting into the scene, if you're just kind of trying to get into this, I would go one of two ways, right? And I've kind of listed them there, and I should have indented those bullets. But you can go the console route, or you can go the PC route. So if you've been a console gamer for a long time, that might be your comfort zone to go with. You might go with a console or a few consoles to get started, and maybe a PC or two just for those gamers that might be in your room that are more comfortable gaming on a PC, or because that's where you eventually want to go. Because, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but most esports tournaments or games are more PC focused. Is that right?
I technically, yes. The most popular ones do come from the PC. But there's games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that is very popular scene, but it's exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. Um, it really depends, and that's probably one of the most annoying answers to a question like this. I would say generally PC is got the most volume of esports titles.
Mhm.
While you can find some of the similar esports titles that you can on PC on your consoles, PC is kind of just the middleman essentially between the consoles and the games and all that. Generally, a game's always on a PC nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about why the PCs might be a better way for your space and for your budget here in a second. But you might start with consoles. Mike, did you start with any consoles when you started your program?
We didn't, and Regina just posted a question here about, do most environments choose one or the other, or do they do both? I think really the biggest determinant for that, for me, and the way I would determine that is what games are you wanting to play? What do you think your kids are interested in? So before you get too far down the road, you may want to do kind of an informal survey with your students and gauge their interest on what games that they're interested in, and because, like as Jared mentioned, if you have, most of your kids want to play Super Smash, there's no reason to go out and buy PCs because you can't play Smash on PC. So, but many of the other titles are mostly played on PC. So it really just kind of depends on what direction you want or what direction your kids are going with the games. So, but I did not have any consoles in my lab, but we didn't have any Nintendo competitions at the time that we were participating in either. So, all of ours were gaming PCs that we wrote grants to get. So we were fortunate to get those grants awarded to us. But we're going to talk about it later. So, but finding those dual purpose machines, is always a good way to get started too.
Yeah. Yeah. And to aid to your confusion, Regina, my program, we started out with both. And so we had 15 gaming PCs that we started with, and then we had a Nintendo Switch and an Xbox. And so those are what we started with. And those were great because we did primarily use the PCs for the esports. And then sometimes the kids we had kind of a couch area with a TV, and that's where the consoles were. And so sometimes they want to take a break. They've been working at this one game for a long time. They just want to relax and play Mario Kart. It's hard to think about, they were just playing video games and then they want to relax now from doing that and play something different. But it is, it's a little mind shift and doing something different. So yeah, so definitely though, it depends on the game. So if you're looking at Nintendo titles, console only, right? If you're looking at almost any other things, the PC may be the more advantageous route to go based on what you can sell to your district in terms of how they can be used.
Yeah, and if you're looking at Nintendo titles, it's only the Switch console. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't go buy a bunch of Xboxes and expect to play.
Yeah. Yeah, keep
Smash.
that.
It's not going to happen.
Keep that in mind. And when we're talking about games kind of determining what hardware you buy, you also really need to focus and look at the ESRB ratings on those things because your administration may be pretty loose with it and say, I trust you, you play what the kids want to play and all that stuff. And you might get into something that's, Call of Duty or Halo or Rainbow Six or something like that. And then find out that some of your kids can't actually play this because of the age requirements that those games put on them. And so keep that in mind. And that goes back to talking to your administration about what your plans are and getting some of that buy-in. We will talk about games in a little bit. But so console route, let's average, a class of 20, right? Class of 20. How many consoles do you need, right? How many do you need? So, you might think, again, should be based on the game because it's how many players would be on a team. So if you're going to play Super Smash, you probably don't want to try and squeeze all 6 kids around one screen. You probably don't. So you might split that up. So, in a class of 20, Mike, what would your recommendation be for switches?
I'd probably say 10. Would you agree with that, Jared? I mean, for switches?
Yeah, 10's always a safe number. The Switch with Smash, you might be able to stretch it up to 4. No more than 4 realistically. So, 5 to 10 switches is probably ideal for a 20-person classroom. Doubled up is perfect. The screens, students playing from both consoles, they'll typically be on the same screen, so you got to think of that space as well.
Yeah.
4 to a console isn't bad either. I'd probably say 10 is the safest, like Mike said.
Yeah. So
because when you're
again,
talking screen space, if you have 4 kids playing, they're each going to have like a little quadrant as opposed to split screen. So it gets to be a lot more intense on the eyes if you're going through that. So, but if you can only get 4 and then you can rotate kids maybe through, or 5, then you can rotate kids and do something, kind of alternate them through. You can do that too. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that might be for switches. Was that true, Mike, Jared, for if we were going to get a PS5 or an Xbox?
Sometimes, for some games it is. For consoles like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, um, it's more the individual himself. Split screen is kind of a dying breed in a lot of games that are going to consoles nowadays. So for the PS5 and the Xbox Series, you're more than likely just going to be on a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, so if we're talking about efficiency, maximizing the amount of devices, you're definitely looking at the Switch for what you can play. Because Switch games we will get into later, but there's a lot for that, for just the Switch, more than you'd probably think. The PC route, obviously, ideally you'd want 1-to-1 on the PC route. But if you have, like I had, where we had a couple of consoles and then we didn't quite have enough PCs, we were able to rotate through those things, right? So, and if you have kids working off of one computer, you can develop a lot of skills where, they share a computer, but, the other student could be working on strategy. They could be working on mechanics. They could be working on helping the player get through the map, or helping them visualize things that they aren't necessarily paying attention to. And so you kind of have a trainer-trainee system where, you have A, B on the computer, and they rotate those roles, or switch off on those roles. And so that can be very effective when you don't necessarily have enough PCs. However, go ahead, Mike. I thought you were going to say something.
The one caution I would give against rotating computers like that, or rotating machines, is depending on how your firewall is set up, that can cause some issues, because if you have kids rotating to different machines and logging in, their settings are different per each machine. So, and then also their game settings are going to be different. And also, when you log into certain games, there's a lot of them have 2FA, which is dual authentication. And every time you log into a different machine, you're going to have to authenticate that machine. And oftentimes that authentication goes to your administrator or your tech department, and they may not be right there to authenticate that. So then you're going to be waiting to get on the machine. So I would recommend, depending on how your firewall is set up, assigning the students to each computer and not having them leave that until their class is over, like for the semester or the year, so that you don't have to go through these problems. Because that's something I learned early on.
Yeah, Mike has lived through it, so definitely take his advice. So this definitely aids to my next point that you can make to your administrators on why you need 1-to-1 computers, is that it's a good investment for the district, right? The broadcasting room has enough computers for all of them. The journalism room has enough computers for all of them. The esports room needs enough computers for all of your students. And so one of the things is you can dual purpose these machines if you buy gaming computers for your esports program. And those machines are very capable of doing things like AutoCAD, or machining, doing a lot of your robotics and industrial tech programs through Autodesk Inventor, Rivet, Fusion 360. If you use PLTW in your district for engineering, those programs are graphically intense and hard on computers. And you might be buying specific engineering computers. I know that Lenovo and HP build those for programs like that to handle things like I said, Fusion 360, SolidWorks, Autodesk, and CAD programs. Gaming PCs will handle it just as well, if not better, because of the amount of dedicated graphics that a gaming PC will have. And so, that can be some of the sell, is that, look, these machines can be used throughout the day. It's not just for esports. We're going to hook up the PLTW, or the engineering program, through CTE on these. We're going to hook up the broadcasting and journalism kids through these. There's so much that you can do with these machines, that you can make it. I'm just going to take this from Nathan, but you can make it quite a lot of bang for your buck when you're dual purposing, or making these machines as useful as possible. And then maybe you have a dead period during the day, or you just can't fill as many times of the day. My room got used as a flex space one of the hours of the day. And so kids could come in from business, they could come in from, their CTE programs, and use these machines to get things done that had the same programs that maybe they needed for their project or something like that, because they're high-end machines. So yeah, absolutely. It's just another media lab. And then another thing you could use it for testing, right? You've got another bunch of computers here where you can take kids to be tested, use testing on, because there's always never enough computers for some reason when it's testing time, and it's, everything is maxed out. Anybody got any questions or comments or anything about hardware before we move on?
I think one thing I would just add is when we're talking PCs, we're not talking about like Chromebooks. We're not
No.
talking about like, just stuff that is used for browsing and those kinds of things. You need like dedicated hard drive space. You need like
Windows PCs.
video
And I guess
card.
maybe we should probably talk about this too. I didn't even consider it, as we're just kind of giving generalities here. But when you're talking about getting a gaming PC, right, the most important factors are going to be your graphics card, your RAM, and your CPU, right? And so those are things that you want to definitely do your research on. We have some in your follow-up email from this webinar, you'll get a little cheat sheet from us, from our support site about what you're looking for each game. So that'll kind of help you determine what you might need to buy. And so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, software. Now we're going to get off on a small tangent, but then we'll go right back on the road here. And so, sometimes when you're doing stuff with esports, there's a lot of other things that you need to do or you want to do as well. Maybe your kids want to stream, or maybe they want to shoutcast, or maybe they want to, kind of publicize this in any way. If you're using the Gaming Concepts curriculum from us, all of the software you need for those things is already online, right? And so if you're going to attempt to do some of these things, like you want to, like I said, stream or shoutcast, or you want to build digital media for your students to promote your esports program, which could be done in Pixlr or Canva, or maybe you want to do a conjunction with the journalism department and you want to do like a podcast and build it on Audacity. These are some free websites here that I've thrown on here that we use to kind of build that career-centric kind of thought into esports, right? There's a lot of career skills, technical skills that you can learn through esports. And again, these are some resources that are completely free, web-based, that we use, that you can use as well to just enhance that program, because a lot of people are going to think you're just there to play games, right? And so this can really give you that edge on this is why this is important, and these are the skills, and look at these projects. Everybody likes to see projects that kids are building and making. And so this can offer some of that authentic learning to your esports program. So like I said, small tangent, but we'll get right back on the road here. So where are you going to put this, right? Where is all this stuff going, right? You probably want to put a structure to your program online somewhere. Would we love for you to use Blueprint? Absolutely, right? Go ahead and use Blueprint. It's completely free to use. So, but you got to have some structure. So where are you going to put, and this is kind of more on the software side of this technology webinar, but where are you going to put game schedules? Where are you going to put the tournament schedules, practice schedules? Where are you going to put training materials? All of these things should be housed online somewhere, right? Instead of, it getting lost to time on a whiteboard in your room that the janitor wipes at the end of the week or something like that, right? So just consider that whether you use Google Classroom or Canva, or sorry, excuse me, Canvas, or Blueprint, I would invite you to check it out, to have something on there for your students to engage with for your esports program. Okay, everyone's been waiting for this part, right? Everybody's been waiting for the game part. So, Jared, Mike, I'm going to have you guys kind of take this one. But let's talk about kind of the games, the most popular esports games that are, and maybe some little tidbits or facts about details about each one. Jared can start.
Yeah, so as Alex has been mentioning all throughout, there's a lot of games out there that are, considered esports games and whatnot. And a lot of them have different age ranges, different ratings, ESRB ratings and whatnot. Um, so it's important to understand where your students are, whether it's in age or maturity and stuff like that. Understanding where they're at, meeting them at that level. Valorant is a very popular game nowadays among students and kids. I believe it's rated T for teens, correct? But there is a little bit of maturity that does come with a game like that. So for those of you that might be in middle school or in a middle school environment, it might not be the best game to, run on. Overwatch kind of meets it a little closer to that range. But it's still a little bit more mature. Games like Rocket League, Smash Bros, Mario Kart, Splatoon, those are perfect for middle schoolers and even, those older than that. So it's important to understand where your kids are at, not only in age, but maturity. Um, and what they're able to handle, and even how much time you have on your hands. There's a lot of programs that just don't have enough time, and games like Valorant could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes for a single game. So time restraints are also important. Games like Rocket League, Smash Bros, Mario Kart, those are very quick games. You're able to cycle out, so even if you're limited in technology, you can use rotations with games that are quick, games that are fast. Brawlhalla is even another great one as well. Um, I'll probably pass on the other bullet points over to Mike because he has the experience with administrators in the public education system. So he's probably the best person for all that.
Yeah, I mean, this was key in kind of developing our program and what we do now. We actually have resources for this now that we've built for everybody on the webinar, so we can give you some useful information and shortcuts to kind of go through, avoid a lot of the pitfalls that we did initially. But um, you want to handle that question, Alex, or do you want me to handle that the COPA?
Yeah, I mean, so all of the games themselves are going to be COPA and SIPA compliant, right? Because they're not from us; they're from these big multi-billion-dollar international companies, and so yeah, they are completely compliant, as well as we are through our tournament platform. So which we'll talk about next. But yeah,
Yeah, and you'll want to rely a lot on the ESRB rating as Jared kind of and you don't want to offer Call of Duty, which we don't even offer competitively anymore because the game rating is mature. It's 18 and up, and we don't offer it. So you definitely wouldn't want to offer that as middle school, a middle school offering. So yeah, go by those ESRB ratings. Rely on what we put on our information as what we would consider age appropriate and what we would allow students to be on, and then that'll be some good guides. And if you ever have any questions on that, you can reach out to Jared or our sport team or anybody, and we're happy to help you navigate those waters. So, um, yeah, I would when you go into your administrators. I mean, they're gonna have obviously a lot of questions. We have a lot of slides put together for you that we can share. They're always going to ask about what are the kids getting out of this? What are they learning? How much is it going to cost me? Do I need staff? Who's going to teach it? What are my what qualifications do I need? What does my teacher need to be licensed in to teach the classes? Does my coach need a specific endorsement?
yeah.
Am I going to have to pay the coach? We recommend you do. Many school districts now do have a supplemental that they pay their coaches. They treat it as a either traditional sport or a club, depending on how they have it structured. So most of the coaches are being compensated for that now, so that's great. Um, but those are going to be the hurdles. You're probably going to have to run it through your board of education and you need to get approval to offer this, and then you may even need to go higher than that, depending on how your state is structured. So.
And we have resources for every level of that. Talking to your principal, talking to your administrator, or talking to your school board, talking to the superintendent, talking to state level decision makers. Like we have all of that for you. So if this is something that you want, chat with us, email us, and we have all the resources for you to make this a successful program in your building.
Built out for you.
Yeah.
The stakeholders, I mean, the kids are obviously the students are going to be the first stakeholders you're going to want to be in touch with, as we've mentioned before. Going to help you narrow down your selection of offerings, so you kind of know where to focus your program initially, and then you can expand from there. Parents are always the second one you're going to want to chat with to see if they're on board with their students participating in something like this. Always good to get a questionnaire or something out to the public just to kind of find out, best times for practices, and or we can explain when the match times are, and are they able to get transportation and things like that. Um, I would advise holding a meeting and having the students bring their parents to the meeting where where you can discuss all the ins and outs of this. Um, I always say start small.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do any more than 1 or 2 games your initial season, maybe 2 seasons, because really what that breaks down into is it's kind of the equivalent of coaching every track event.
Yeah.
If you decide to go like 15 different esports, you're going to be coaching or directing 15 different events. And just
Yeah.
because you're a great sprint coach does not mean you're going to be great at, throwing the javelin. So you want to kind of narrow that focus down. Not that you have to be great at coaching any of the games. You're more there. I always say the person that kind of manages the classroom and the coach setting is the kind of the director of the program, and then the kids typically will want to step into a leadership role. So you'll have somebody who wants to be the coach of a particular game, or the captain of a team, something like that at the high school level. So don't feel like you have to have all this knowledge about, oh, I have to be the best Rocket League player ever, and you need to watch thousands of hours of YouTube, because there's just really no need. And to be honest, you could do all that research, and depending on when that stuff was created, the meta and how the game is played may have changed, and then you're basically obsolete at that point.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure your kids are, they will stay up on it because they want to be competitive. So so you're there to make sure they're at the match on time, the grades are staying good, they're working together, they're not, they have good teamwork, they're using proper, appropriate language and things like that. So and
Absolutely.
then accounts are required for the games. There's a few different ways to handle this. We had school accounts that the kids played on. However, most publishers prefer the kids have their own account. And when I say publisher, I mean like Blizzard or Riot or Epic Games or Nintendo. They would really like to have the kids have their own account. Which is good, because they can continue to have that account as they grow out of your program and grow onto their own. They can still maintain all their statistics and things like that. So it is good. Where it comes into issues, it could be where if the game costs and the kids want to get into it, who's going to pay for that account? But most of the kids will go out if they're interested in competing in it. They will have already purchased the account. So, and many other titles are free. So, but that's always an issue. You want to make sure you can monitor those accounts when they're in your classroom, everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a great question here from Max here about we have an esports class. Are games typically played in esports classes? I'm used to all of this being more club oriented. So that's going to be kind of a question that's yes and no, right? So it depends on what they're using in esports class and in your esports class, what curriculum or resource they're using to teach esports. And so if you're using gaming concepts, which is our curriculum, the play time that we focus on is called purposeful play, and that's because students are directly engaged in gameplay through what they've learned in the lesson prior. And so you might have 45 minutes of direct instruction, activity, schoolwork, and then they have 15 minutes of game time to focus on the economy within an in-game currency system. Or maybe they're focusing on the usage of color and graphic design within menu selections. And all of it ties back to the content that we are teaching in the lesson of that day. So we focus on it being purposeful play, not tournament or not just kind of free play, but there is purpose to it, there's reflection on it, and there is tie-in to the actual lesson. So that's now other people's curriculum or resources, I don't know. So that's something that you would need to check with what is provided in the documentation they're giving you.
So Max, just to kind of break that out, we kind of have two different paths with this. So we call the in-school piece is scholastic gaming. So that's what we call like when it's being taught for credit inside of a school day. And then we have what we call our competitive or our tournament gaming. That's the after school where, we want to be the best in the country. We're going to practice and things. So that's how we kind of differentiate the two. So,
yeah. And strangely enough, there can definitely be two different kids in those. I mean, they can definitely be different. and the kids you're seeing in those two organizations, whether
Yeah,
scholastic or competitive.
not in every case. In fact, probably 50-50 is that every kid in the class would be on the team and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
and then Regina, just to go back to your question, they will probably want to have a personal account that they can log into. At the school can have their own accounts, but a lot of the publishers prefer them not to do that because it can kind of mess up the competitive integrity, because we can't really track, for instance, if we name it Gamer 1, Gamer 2, Gamer 3, so on and so forth. If you do that, it's hard for us to track which student is actually using that account
For their
so
stats.
we want to make sure that we keep the competitive integrity. So it's best for us to have for the students to use the personal account that they create, so we can kind of track and make sure we know the student, because ultimately the coaches verify the student, and then we rely on the coaches to make sure that their rosters are set and the right students are using the right accounts. So,
but definitely just defer to your IT department on what they're going to do, right? Because they're going to be the ultimate gatekeeper. So if they want to do computer 1, that's how we start. That's how you do it. But you can combat that with a cost savings of, look, 8 out of my 10 kids already have this game, so we don't have to pay for it. So that could be a savings to the district of not having to purchase it, because it can be quite wonky trying to buy 10, 20, 25 game licenses, right, Mike?
it can be near impossible,
Yeah.
actually, because many game publishers will only allow you to make 3 purchases on the same credit card in a given. So then you have to do it over a period of days. Otherwise, they lock your card and don't allow you to buy any more accounts. And I know that because I tried it. So,
Yeah, good tip there for knowing, how many for purchasing games, because a lot of times with the school, you buy something, you just send it over to purchasing, or you send it over to, whoever buys things, and you say, I just need 25 of these things. Here's the link, here's the form, and then they kind of figure it out. But this would definitely be a hassle for them, because it's a lot different. Okay, any other questions about games, things that we didn't ask? Or here we go, Regina.
yeah, so I think Regina, so we're talking about 2 different accounts here. And this is a common question. And so you have their school assigned account, which would be kind of how they, do all their schoolwork and emailing and Excel, or not Excel, sorry, Google Sheets, Word docs, all that stuff. And then they will also have an account assigned to specific publishers like Blizzard, Epic, Riot, where they will need to have an account where they log into the game, and that's where they will log into the game to compete. And then they will also have an account with Generation Esports, so that they can log into our tournament platform, so they can then compete and know how to report their scoring and all those stuff, keep track of their statistics on that as well. So there's really probably going to be three logins, honestly, to do this. And we're trying to get single sign-on for at least the Generation Esports platform and through some school sites. But the publishers will never be on board to do that with the schools. So there's always going to be a separate account for logging into a tournament platform, or I'm not a tournament platform, but of a game, like any game specific. So if they want to play Rocket League, they're going to have their own account. Now, your school can decide if they want those accounts to be school owned accounts, or if they want the kids to make their own account. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So.
And we've got documentation to walk you through all of those scenarios, Regina. Again, you'll get like a little not a little packet, but you'll get some information from me. And if there isn't anything in there that's answering your questions, definitely reach out, and we will, get you exactly what you need, because we have use cases on everything that you guys can probably think of it as a question starting this program and how it works. So really good question. All right, so tournament. Jared, I appreciate you being on here again. This is going to be Jared's wheelhouse here for how the tournament is structured. And so just kind of the tech behind the tournament, how does it work? And what's the tech behind it,
Yeah, absolutely. So with the structure of our tournaments in specific, we utilize a web platform to match students up with other schools, other students through our web platform app.generationesports.com. From there, I can piggyback off of what Dr. Mike has just recently was mentioning to you, Regina. Login, single sign-on. I know you mentioned you say you use the Google Workspace. With our competition platform, we have single sign-on for Google. So your students do not need to create an extra account. They do not need to remember any extra passwords or anything like that, which is really nice because I know students nowadays are very forgetful in their passwords. Um, so yeah, with our tournaments, they vary between the age ranges. So our most popular tournaments are our HSCL and our MSCL. HSCL being our high school esports league, and MSCL being our middle school esports league. Um, they both offer a different variety of games. Our latitude is wide for the range of games that we offer. We offer competitions for Rocket League, Valorant, Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart, chess, Minecraft, just about any popular esports title that you could think of, we offer a game for it. And what we do is we separate it between HSCL and MSCL. Some games are more appropriate for the high schoolers, and some games might not be too appropriate for the middle schoolers, even though they might be playing them at home. We want to make this a structured environment. So with our middle school esports league, we keep
Oh,
it within the
oh,
age ranges by those ESRB ratings. Oh, did I lose connection for a second?
just for a second.
My
Yeah,
apologies.
you did.
I was like, oh no, I'm
So
gonna
just
have to jump in.
so just with the MSCL, I don't know where I got cut off, but we stick to the ESRB ratings like we mentioned previously. We want to keep it uh, age appropriate for these students. The games are still competitive, highly competitive, and they're also meeting the middle schoolers at their age, so they're competing with same middle schoolers and whatnot. As for the structure of the tournament itself, we split it up into three divisions essentially. We have a preseason, a regular season, and a playoffs. So preseason's there for your new students, your returning students to get reacclimated, get used to how our form works. Our regular season is where the competition, officially kicks off, where students and schools are paired up against each other all throughout the season. We utilize a system called the Q system. Basically, what the Q system is we offer a bunch of time windows that students can compete at throughout the day. So some may vary between 2 o'clock to 5:30. Some might range between 3 o'clock to 6:30. Depends on the game itself. But we offer, 3 to 4, maybe even 5 windows where students can compete at. So not only does this offer you the ability to rotate your students, so if you're limited in hardware that you might have, you're able to cycle those students throughout those time windows. It also allows the students to be flexible so that they're not overcommitting to one thing. We know a lot of students are involved in multiple extracurriculars, so we do not want to be a standardized time slot. So if we can be flexible, why not be flexible? So you are able to bounce around between those queue windows, those time frames in order to compete. Um, how to play the game is a lot, or how to play the game, the platform versus the game itself. Um, like we mentioned earlier, our competition platform has its own account. The games itself also have their own unique accounts. So there's a lot of different account confusion that'll get stirred up, especially when you're starting out. Typically, for the games themselves, students most likely already have an account for most of the games. So they're able to use those accounts and connect those accounts to the competition platform itself. Um, you might have school accounts, and students will just need to connect those school accounts to the platform account for our competitions, and that's perfectly fine. All throughout the school year, we do offer multiple seasons. We offer a fall season, a winter season, and a spring season. So there's wide opportunities. Some programs can't compete in the fall, but they can compete in the spring semester. So you do not have to, commit to it for the full school year while you absolutely can. And, the students will probably love you for doing that. You do not actually have to make that time commitment. You can, flex, you can bounce around. Participation is probably going to vary between fall and spring, especially, in other sports like football, basketball, baseball, soccer, track. Um, a a lot of students are involved in a lot of things, so they might be more available or less available depending on the semester. So you're able to compete as much or as little as you want realistically. Um, One thing to note with the MSCL is going back to the SIPA and the COPA compliances, we do offer anonymous accounts for MSCL. So any students under the age of 13, we can create anonymous accounts for your school. That way, absolutely zero personal information is being tracked. This puts a lot of parents' minds at ease. There's no personal information being attached to this account whatsoever. All they have to do is connect the username that they're playing under for that game. And once they're done playing, that information is then deleted, so you don't have to worry about any of that. No headaches about data information collection and whatnot. Um, which, turns into another topic on, information collection, especially with technology. Um, Games themselves, the games developers, they might collect information. Um, we can't give standards for anything like that, so each game will be different in terms of information collecting. So I'd always say be mindful of what games you do compete in. A lot of esports titles are accommodating and they do not collect any data that they do not need to. So that helps put a lot of people's minds at ease. But do always do your due diligence for a lot of games that you're looking to compete in. And then the last bullet point that I really want to cover is the technology required. For our tournaments in specific, it really depends, and it's a very annoying answer. It depends on the games that you're interested in competing in, uh, how many students you have competing as well. For MSCL in specific, your best friend in terms of technology is going to be the Nintendo Switch, because that console can play um, 6 out of the 8 games. The 2 games that it can't play is Minecraft and then chess. Chess is a web-based competition that we offer. So you get 75% of the competitions offered covered by just a singular console, and most notably, it's one of the cheapest consoles out there. So it's just an extra positive. You're able to afford more. You're able to flex more with stuff like that. With high school, I typically recommend. Of course, there are the Nintendo titles that require a Switch, and there's costs associated with acquiring those consoles, of course. But with most high school titles, your best friend is going to be a PC, of course. And we have resources on our help site as well that determine what kind of PC that you need, because not every game is built the same. So some games might be a little bit more intense on your computer, some might be a little less intense. So we have all that game requirements, technical specs that the game developers themselves recommend, as well as the minimum requirements to run the game. So it gives you an idea of what kind of PC that you might need to acquire, you might need to outsource, or procure for your school. Um, and then, of course, the most important technology for our competition is our platform, our competition platform. So access to the internet, of course, with games, that's a given. But making sure that a student has access to a web browser, whether it's on their phone, tablet, Chromebooks. This is where Chromebooks come in clutch. Is just connecting to the internet. They can even run chess on those. But connecting to the internet, making sure that you're able to log on to our platform and get connected, and set up your games, compete, have students meet other students, and enjoy the competition. That's the most important, is access to the internet, access to the competition platform in terms of technology. And then in terms of consoles, PC versus actual, at-home entertainment consoles, it's going to depend on the games that you're interested in competing in. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or your account manager for your state. I believe we'll have resources sent out to you for that, to contacting your account managers, getting more information from us. We're always happy to help. We're here to make sure that you guys are taken care of. Um, yeah, I think that pretty much covers tournament as a whole.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jared. So any questions about, I want to be, mindful of everybody's time on here, but, go a great overview on the tournament technology side. So if you need anything that we have, we have a dedicated human service team, which I'm proud to say not everyone has a human service team, but you will definitely get somebody. It may be Jared, it might even be me, to talk you through some issues you might be having. Hopefully not. Maybe you never talk to us because you don't have any problems, and that's great. We love that. But yeah, so we have a dedicated service team that goes over multiple things that we offer. Somebody dedicated to you. We offer these webinars every other week, all year long. And then also we have our YouTube channel. So if you miss a webinar, it all goes up. And so in the chat, I threw in our support site where everything is there for tech-based knowledge, game knowledge, tournament knowledge, everything's on there, as well as another link for our YouTube site. And then those are the relevant sites for this webinar. So I'm not going to bog anyone down with extra stuff. But so any questions that you might have that we didn't cover that you want to ask, maybe something that wasn't necessarily covered, we are here to answer those for you. Good questions, though, for this webinar. I love it. It was a really great conversation. All right. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for you guys being on here. Thank you so much for your questions. Jared, Mike, thanks for being on here. And good luck with everyone out there in attendance or watching this with your esports program, because it is hard. It's hard to start this from nothing. But we are here to help you succeed in this, no matter what path you go. Like, we want esports in schools, no matter who you go with, right? So it's about the students. And so, we will help you regardless. And, if there had to be an order of operations for where you go to begin this journey, start with that conversation with your administrators and your IT department, right? Start with that conversation and you work your way down, or work your way up, whatever way you go. I don't know which way on that analogy you're supposed to go, but absolutely. So again, thank you so much for being on here, and we will see you at the next webinar. Have a great afternoon, and good luck in all your esports endeavors.